Pleasure to introduce my mate, scientist Dr. Robert Duncan. Would you please make him welcome?
Okay. I'm not sure how much background you want, but I consider myself one of the last Renaissance scientists, last Renaissance man. I've studied everything from Beethoven to Shakespeare. I went to a private school in Connecticut, and then on to Harvard on the East Coast, where I was early accepted. They allowed me to graduate in 3 years. I declined, not Harvard, but to graduate early because there's so many great classes to still take, and my parents were paying for it. So. I worked at an artificial intelligence company. I forgot to mention, my undergrad focus was pre-medical and computer science. I decided I don't like blood of any kind, so unlike the rest of my family, I didn't become a doctor, a medical doctor. I liked robots and technology and computers. So after that, I worked for an artificial intelligence company that did image recognition of all types. And I went back to school for a master's in biomechanical engineering, robotic engineering, like artificial hearts and those types of engineering majors. And then I went to school again, a different Ivy League, and got a business degree, a master's of business administration, and then did a stint in some other work. Went back for more schooling, get a PhD in artificial intelligence, but a very specific field, which is genetic algorithm optimization of artificial neural networks. So what that means is we were creating alien synthetic minds, emerging minds. And it's, when I say alien, it's not from another planet. We're just creating cybernetic minds. And there's a Dr. Wiener, I think it was about 100 years ago when the CIA was created, that coined the term cybernetics, which means there is no distinction between a synthetic symbolic representation of intelligence or a biological one. In fact, they meet. You can have brain chips if you want, and it will all give rise to consciousness. And I just found that field fascinating. I did do a stint for doing management consulting for a Fortune 50 firm, and got to travel worldwide quite a bit. Anyway, when I got recruited, headhunted by DARPA, Department of Defense, CIA, and I love high-end technology, and I wasn't immoral about it. I wrote the code to track the artificial intelligence code to track the Soviet nuclear submarine fleet. That was a big project for the Navy. Worked on robotic surgery for medicine for the Army. Voice recognition, conversation planning for chatterbots. You use them all the time now. Voice of God weapons we used in war, in the Gulf War, for example.
This is the V2K.
V2K, where we can project a sound you cannot plug your ears for to stop. And we'll get into a little more about how that particular technology works. But we told them in their language, this is all a lay down your arms. And it worked quite effectively because the technology is unexplainable to the common person who hasn't experienced it yet. And then I saw in society a lot of my work being misused on my own population. I'm like, that's exactly what I worked on, the things Craig's experiencing. And this was not supposed to be used on civilians. This was supposed to be a wartime weapon used for interrogation purposes, perhaps, to maybe fatigue the enemy and demoralize them, which you can understand the Department of Defense would be quite interested in this. Wars without blood. I mean, that's wonderful. Being misused completely. I started my own investigation about 22 years ago. I became a human rights activist against torture, all forms of torture, but mainly this kind of torture that Craig will talk about, what's happened to him and people all around the world. This wasn't the way it was supposed to be, and so my agenda since then has been to enlighten people, to educate them. I've gone to the Senate Intelligence Committee, met with 23 senators in the United States, federal, with the head of the LA FBI, and to our dismay, our words fell on deaf ears of what was happening. No one understood the technology or even believed it existed. And these are our leaders. We met with the Senate Intelligence Committee behind closed doors and, frisked for wires and bugs. They had never heard of MK Ultra, which they're the oversight committee of our intelligence agencies. And we had a huge hearing in the 1970s called the Frank Church hearings, a senator from my state of Idaho, but I know most people don't know where Idaho is. And it was very famous, and turns out the CIA was doing all this mind control testing on humans in Canada and the United States, just on various things. And they ended up shredding about 70,000 documents. So that kind of led me forward to write some books that I did, and